Okay, moving on. It's a pleasure now to introduce the CEO and Managing Director of Radiopharm, Dr. Riccardo Canevari. Prior to joining Radiopharm, Riccardo was Chief Commercial Officer of Advanced Accelerator Applications, a company now owned by Novartis, and one of the leading radiopharmaceutical and nuclear medicine companies globally. Since joining Radiopharm, the company has completed a highly successful initial public offer and recently announced the first meaningful data from its clinical program. The company has 6 radiopharmaceutical assets in development, which are expected to provide it with an extensive news flow over the next 2 years. Today's presentation will feature the headline data from the Pivolate trial, which is a phase 2 study investigating the use of the company's experimental drug for PET imaging of brain metastases, regardless of the origin of the primary tumour. The drug demonstrated good uptake in treatment-naive patients, and based on this data, Radiopharm will shortly commence an approval process with the FDA. Riccardo joins us this morning from his home in New Jersey. Welcome and thanks for joining us. Riccardo, good to see you.
Thanks a lot, John. Hope you're doing well.
I'm very well, as always. Please take a moment to go through your slideshow and we'll come back for questions in a few moments.
That's great. Thanks for having me, and pleased to be connected, of course. And thanks for the introduction. So let me share start with an overview of Radiopharm Theranostics, of course. And one of the most important aspects is always the ambition. What we want to be, where we want to go, and we believe that our place is really a great opportunity to become a recognized leader in oncology. Now, this is the most important market. This is where you can really change the life of so many patients. And the way we plan to do it is leveraging the unique characteristic and mechanism of action of the radiopharmaceutical therapies. For this reason, we do have a large pipeline. We span from monoclonal antibody, small monoclonal antibody, peptides, small molecule, with a pipeline that goes from preclinical up to phase 2, as John was referring to our recent trial with Pivolate. We also were able to sign 2 important collaborations in the last 3 months. One with the #1 cancer care center in US, that is MD Anderson, and we signed a joint venture. I will describe more about this later. And the second one is with a global leader in imaging nuclear medicine, that is Lantheus Molecular Imaging. Also, we had the opportunity to secure the supply agreement for the isotope that are needed for our development, both the one that are more available, but also the one that are really rare at this moment. And we wanted to plan for the future and to be sure that we have enough high-quality supplier for our clinical development, not only in this stage, but also later on when we are potentially be in phase 2 or phase 3. And we continue to strengthen the organization. We started with a very small team. We continue to be a small team, but we are significant players because we want to be sure that all the proper expertise are covered. So that's the overview of the company. And maybe I don't spend too much on this slide, as many of you are familiar with radiopharmaceutical, but it's always interesting to say that it looks very simple. At the end, you only need 3 aspects to make a great successful products. You need a targeting molecule, high affinity and specific to the cancer cell. You need an isotope. That's very important, either an imaging isotope or a therapeutic isotope. And you need a chain or a linker or a chelator, as you prefer to call it, to connect the two. So the concept of seeing the tumor and treating the tumor is very important, well known in the community, and is critical in this area of business. But let me elaborate a little bit more on why we believe that the sector of radiopharmaceutical are going to be extremely successful. So in the recent year, in a very fast-growing oncology field, beyond the more traditional approach that is chemotherapy and targeted therapy, the significant growth came from immuno-oncology and cell and gene. Well, these two are important platforms, and they continue to be very important in the future. But we do believe that if we look at the next big thing in oncology, these are going to be the radiopharmaceutical therapy, either as a standalone monotherapies, as in combination with the other modalities. And if you think about how radiopharmaceutical therapies are created, are really taking the best of two well-known approaches. One of these is radiation treatment. Radiation treatment has been there for many decades, either in the form of external beam radiation or in terms, typical approach to treat, for example, thyroid with iodine accumulation. We all know that this is very effective. It works very well. At the same time, in order to deliver this radiation, you need to cross and pass healthy tissue to get there. So this approach has limitation. The other way is one of the most recent approach, or at least in the last 10 years, has been the so-called ADC, so the antibody drug conjugates. There are 12 now that have been approved by FDA, and they are able to deliver with a selected molecule toxin to the cancer cell and to kill them. But the limitation of this is that the products need to get internalized in the nucleus in order to be effective. Now, targeted radiopharmaceutical, I believe, are taking the best of the two approaches and putting together in one very important solution. And this is not just a theory, this is a practical, there are evidence, there is proof of concept. Now, if we take only one, but very important therapeutic area like prostate cancer, for example, now there are successful imaging radiopharmaceutical in the market. Lantheus is doing a great job with Pylarify, already more than $150 million per quarter. Telix is also doing a very good job with the launch of their imaging agents. So analyst consensus is going well above 1 billion for those three products. And these have been really very recently approved. In terms of therapeutic, the company where I was working before, Novartis, was able to get approval for an imaging agent, but also for Pluvicto, that is the therapeutic radiopharmaceutical for prostate cancer, with analyst consensus above 2.5 billion. So from this point of view, you can see that only one disease area in oncology is able to deliver such high level of sales in terms of potential. And we believe there is no scientific reason why radiopharmaceutical therapy should not work in the majority of the other solid tumor. So it's really a blue sky ahead of us, where companies in the space can really contribute significantly to improve patient lives with those technology. Well, here is also the role of Radiopharm Theranostics. Despite being a recent startup in the field, we not only have a very important pipeline, but we were able to demonstrate with our most advanced asset, F18 pivalate, important results. And 2 weeks ago, we reported phase 2A positive readout for our imaging agent, F18 pivalate, in a trial for brain metastasis. So F18 pivalate is a new and innovative approach to this disease. Brain metastases are very frequent because they are coming from multiple tumor types, from breast cancer, from lung, melanoma, colorectal. You have a number of these tumors that unfortunately end up with metastasis in the brain. And the current technologies like MRI or current PET imaging have very important limitation in this disease area. And pivalate has a unique mechanism of action, different from what is available. Well, we, as I mentioned, reported positive phase 2 data in brain metastasis, as also was initially mentioned from John. We saw a very important and statistically significant uptake in the brain mets. It means that the products was able to cross the blood-brain barrier, arrive to the brain, and being selectively accumulated in the brain metastasis. And so when a patient goes under a PET machine, the oncologist, the nuclear medicine physician, the neurosurgeons were able to see where the metastases are, but also how they evolve. And these results was independent from the primary tumor. So for any tumor that was studied, was the same very effective results in highlighting the brain metastasis. So based on this great data, we are planning the next step. One, of course, is to continue the conversation with the medical expert, cross-functional team, to understand how they see the application, among other technology, of this F18 PET pivalate in their approach to image patient with brain metastasis. And the second is a meeting that we are planning now with FDA. Will probably end up to be at the beginning of the new year. And our main objective is to understand if the next step can be a phase 2B, phase 3 registrational trial with F18 pivalate. And we are working towards this direction. So we're really looking forward with the interaction with the agency to understand the best way to go ahead. And you know, we wanted to see how big is this opportunity, how big are brain mets compared to well-known area. Well, the most well-known area today for imaging agent is prostate. We mentioned before successful launches in this area. And here we are talking about 250,000 patients with eligibility of 70%, a price of almost $5,000 for single injection. So a total market between 800 million and 1 billion only in US. Well, brain metastasis is even bigger than that because the patient population is larger, and assuming the same price, of course, the market that can be addressed is equally important, and 1 billion or 1.2 billion. Of course, this is not something that we can address tomorrow. We need to do hopefully a phase 3. The phase 3 need to prove or confirm the same data of phase 2, but this is the size of the market, and we are excited to bring our technology to the next step, knowing the difference that can do for patient and the larger adoption that can be possible from a commercial point of view. So very excited about pivalate, and pivalate is one of the 6 technologies that we do have in our pipeline. We have very important other modalities like the alpha beta 6 integrin that is playing a role in pancreatic cancer and head and neck. We do have a single domain monoclonal antibody that we are planning to develop in breast and gastric cancer, HER2 specific, in non-small cell lung cancer, in triple negative breast, and in ovarian. We also have a prostate asset, but in this case is targeting a very different mechanism versus the available PSMA treatment, because it's targeting KLK3 expression in combination with actinium-225. And then after our IPO, when we already had this 4 technology, we decided to strengthen our pipeline, adding 2 very important and promising assets like DAMP19 that we licensed from UCLA, so the University of Los Angeles, California, with very promising preclinical data in a rare disease like osteosarcoma. And we did receive already from FDA orphan drug designation, as well as rare pediatric drug designation for DAMP19 in osteosarcoma. And the last one is another technology, very selective for PTP-MUX, and we see application in glioblastoma or other brain cancer types. So, of course, having 6 technology with application both in imaging and therapeutic can lead to a very high number of clinical trials. And we want to start, of course, with a broad pipeline, but also with a very concrete plan. So we make an exercise of deciding our most important priorities, and these are the 6 top priorities for Radiopharm Theranostics. 2 imaging agents. Of course, one is Pivalate that we have already discussed. The second is our imaging agent in pancreatic cancer. We expect to start this trial in US in the next 2 months, hopefully before Christmas or just after that, is for patients with pancreatic cancer. So very, very important. And then, as it is normal for a company that has an ambition to be a therapeutic company, we are planning to start our therapeutic trial. Well, the first 2 that you see, the one with RAD24 and RAD402 in non-small cell lung cancer and prostate cancer, are planned to be started in Australia. So we are very close to this moment, of course, engaging with the local ethics committee, with strong collaboration with local CROs, and we plan to start this trial very soon. So we are very excited. And the last one that is planned very soon, so in Q1 22, is the nanobody targeting HER2 in breast and gastric. One step behind is RAD502, that is the one I mentioned in osteosarcoma. So if you can see our priorities to imaging and 4 therapeutics, we plan to have a significant news flow in the next months and for the next quarter. So exciting pipeline, very broad, but also with very focused plan to be sure that we use our resource accordingly, and also we start delivering very important clinical data. So exciting time ahead. But I also like to mention what an amazing project, I would say, that we were involved in the last few months. We announced it recently. Together with the #1 cancer center in US, MD Anderson, we formed a joint venture. So we created a new company between RAD and MD Anderson. This company is called Radiopharm Ventures. Is going to be incredibly promising because MD Anderson decided to include in this company 4 IPs, so 4 molecules coming from very innovative approach to treat cancer, And we are so glad that we have now these additional 4 IPs. Of course, the role of Radiopharm Theranostics is to support with the management team, the regulatory strategy, and the clinical development. We have announced only one of the asset that is targeting B7H3 as an MOA in colorectal cancer. The other 3 are still undisclosed for competitive intelligence reason. But we are so excited to work with top scientists from a preclinical point of view in MD Anderson, and to have their technology and the fact that Radiopharm has been selected among a number of companies to be the player in Radiopharm Ventures in the new co is, of course, for us very, very exciting. So more to inform also from this side about the next progresses. I will not spend time on the management team built on individual with huge experience, either in academic or in important companies in radiopharmaceutical, and of course our chairman Paul Hopper continued to play a significant role in leading not only the board of directors, but also the executive team as an executive chairman. So very lucky to have this team in the company. And the scientific advisory board is also a top player. More important, the fact that all the inventors of our molecule decided to stay in our scientific advisory board, not only to continue to give us good advice about their molecules, but also the fact that they believe that we are the right company to develop what they have invented. So top scientists taking us through the next step. And closing where I started, again, important ambition to play a critical role in oncology with a broad pipeline, but also very strong focus on some program, important collaboration with MD Anderson, important collaboration with Lantheus Imaging on one of our asset, and manufacturing and supply of isotope has been secure, and we continue to do our best to improve the management team skills, capabilities, and we are all focused in trying to do our best in this environment. So with this, I hand over back to you, John, and thanks for everybody that was listening.
Thank you, Riccardo. So Radiotheranostics, as I'll term it, certainly a huge growth area, as you pointed out. I'm intrigued by the partnership that you've established with MD Anderson Radiopharm Ventures. How did that come about? Presumably you had some contacts there from your vast experience in the industry.
Yes, John. So it started, if you like, from a different approach. We were asking them if they had any technology in radiopharmaceutical that they were willing to out-license, and we were potentially interested to in-license. And well, they told us, no, this time we want to do something different. We really believe in radiopharmaceuticals, so we want to be part of the game. And we want to form a company where we have a significant presence. So we are discussing with multiple companies if they want to form a joint venture with us. And we are selecting who is going to be the leading partner. And everything started like that. And we were pleased that we were selected. We share the same ambition to bring a strong innovation in therapies, in radiopharmaceutical therapy, to patients living with oncological disease. And this joint venture is already producing some early results. We are collaborating very strongly and very frequently with their top scientists. I'm very positive about what is coming from this company.
Okay, and this sort of leads into the next question about the commercialization of these assets. There's only really your former employer, Novartis, who have got a significant investment in this sector. I believe Bayer have got one asset in the sector as well, but there's a washing list of a long list rather of top tier pharmaceuticals who don't have exposure to this, many like Merck, for example, who have large oncology franchises. What are they thinking about, in your view, what are they thinking about investing in this area? They must be watching with a very vested interest.
I'm sure they are, John. I was 2 weeks ago in a congress that was about prostate cancer, not radiopharmaceutical, prostate cancer in general. And probably 50% of the presentation on the topic were about radiopharmaceuticals, something that only 2 years ago was impossible to imagine. So, now oncologists and urologists consider radiopharmaceutical as a critical element of their algorithm of choices. And this can be exactly the same for many other disease area in oncology. So I'm sure there is interest, and there is going to be even more interest from large pharma now that the approval from FDA of the Novartis products has created a very interesting wave of communication.
Okay, so
and news.
Just paraphrasing what you said there, is it likely that we're going to have more M&A, more interest in this field over the next 5 years?
Well, I cannot decide the M&A strategy of the large pharma, but I can guess that their BD team are surely very interested. We receive every month, requests for calls for explaining what we are doing. I'm sure the same for other players in radiopharmaceutical. So there is strong investigation of what can be next.
Turning back to, we've only got a couple of minutes left, but turning back to the Pivotal trial, which you've just recently reported on, you must have been pleased with the outcomes there. How is that going to change the way in which neuro-oncologists and oncologists in general treat their patients?
Yes, our understanding is today is mainly about using MRI. FDG PET or PET with other amino acid is not really effective, and for this reason, neuro-oncology use MRI. Now, MRI, we believe, will continue to be used, but in addition to MRI, there is strong reason to use PET F18 pivalate or a similar agent if tomorrow will be available, because MRI is like a picture of the brain, but a PET is also telling you the metabolic activity, what is happening. Is the tumor shrinking? Is the tumor enlarging? Is responding to therapy? So this is additional added value to take the best decision in terms of patient management.
Okay then. So looking at your pipeline then, Riccardo, what are the highlights that we can expect in next year, calendar year 23?
Well, I'm excited about the therapeutics, of course, in addition to the imaging. So the 2 phase 1 trial that we plan to start in Australia in Q1 2023 in non-small cell lung cancer and in prostate cancer are of course critical. We expect recruitment to be fast in this area because it's very important, unmet medical need, and we are excited to collaborate with Australian physician, and this is going to be one of our top focus.
Okay then. Well, look, thank you very much for your time today. We are done though with time, so we look forward to seeing you out here. You're out here shortly for the AGM and other meetings, so we'll no doubt catch up then. Thanks, Riccardo.
Yeah, see you in a week.